Danny Short just a little while ago. Where's Danny? Who, Danny is, I know you're looking forward to having more company and getting that minority out of your title and majority into it as in the majority, and I think that's going to happen here. And look, that's going to make a big difference all around the country, because if we win control of the House, we need to keep control of the House. And we'll keep control of the House if we do a good job winning the governorships and the State House and Senate. Just to give you a sense of how important this is, in Texas, I worked for Congressman and Majority Leader Dick Armey for 10 years. And in Texas, when Democrats controlled the state legislature there were 32 members of the House in Washington from Texas. There were 17 Democrats and 15 Republicans. When Republicans won the State House and the State Senate in Texas and redrew those lines, there were 21 Republicans and 11 Democrats. We went from -2 to +10. I believe that we get these elections right in this critical midterm at the state level, and we are going to probably not only win the House this year, but we're going to keep it for a decade possibly by carving 20 to 25 U.S. House seats for the 12, 14, 16, 18, and 20 elections. Now, right now running for Congress and State House and State Senate, Attorney General around the country, there are two kinds of Democrats. Those who are in serious danger and those who just don't know it yet. My whole concern is they may be about to learn, because I think that Republicans are going to win a special election seat in Hawaii, where the president was born, and which has traditionally been seen as a very red state. And we're going to win another seat, a state house seat as well, in Pennsylvania, western Pennsylvania, where Jack Murtha was the congressman for 35 years. Now, when that happens, Democrats are going to realize that they're in trouble. And that is one thing I think we have to take into account, because we do know that they will say and do anything to preserve power. And just to think about it, they'll say it over and over again. I have a few examples that I think you're probably familiar with from our own president. Some sentences I think you've heard so many times you can probably complete the sentence. I'm going to put you to the test here with a couple of these, and I want to start with one from the healthcare debate not too long ago. See if you can fill in the blank here. During the healthcare debate, President Obama repeatedly vowed, if you like the health insurance plan you have, you can keep it. Except that just last week, the administration came out with an assessment from the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services that said that $200 billion in cuts to the Medicare Advantage program that were contained in that healthcare bill are going to result in 5 million senior citizens losing their Medicare Advantage plan and millions more losing the additional benefits they have under it as a result of the healthcare plan. That's their own administration coming out and saying that. And I guarantee you, if this is fully implemented, a lot of people who have private health insurance today they like are going to end up in a government program. So we already know that claim's not true. And just this week, I think it was just yesterday, the Congressional Budget Office came out. I don't know if any of you saw this. It doesn't get a lot of attention in the media, but they came out and said, actually, we were wrong in our estimate when the health care bill was voted on. It wasn't $900 billion. It's actually going to be $1,115 billion. It's they were off by $115 billion in their estimate, which means that it's not going to reduce the deficit, it's going to increase the deficit, despite what they said over and over again. And so now I guess we know what Speaker Pelosi meant when she said we have to pass the bill to find out what's in it. But the voters are going to hold them accountable for this. I'll give you one other example here. It's an oldie but a goodie, and it goes back to the campaign of 2008, when then candidate Obama promised time and time again, under my economic plan, 95% of Americans will get what? A tax cut. Exactly. Except that, it sounds great, except that you can't cut taxes, income taxes, for 95% of Americans when 40% of Americans pay no federal income taxes. And under our progressive tax code, 60% of Americans pay all of the federal taxes in the country today. And in fact, the much maligned top 1% pay as much as the first 95% in taxes. So really what the president was talking about was taking income from others and transferring it to other people who aren't paying any taxes, taking others off the tax roll and raising taxes for those who are still left paying. So in fact, under this administration, the percentage of Americans who will pay no federal income taxes under their plans will rise to 47%, and the percentage who will pay all the federal income taxes will shrink to 53%. putting us well on our way to being a country where there will be one person who pays no federal income taxes for every person who does. Now, since taking office last January, this administration and the Democrats in Congress have increased taxes by $670 billion, or $2,100 for every man, woman, and child in the country today. And by the way, that promise about not raising, if you're making $250,000 or less, you aren't going to see your taxes go up. That's probably not true for most people either. If you're a tobacco user, you got hit with an excise tax. If you're a young person who does not have a health insurance plan, you'll pay a compulsory tax for your mandatory health insurance coverage. And if you have a policy today, a private health insurance policy, you'll pay a surtax on that under the health care bill. So that rhetoric didn't hold up either. And then I'm going to give you one more to test you on. We hear the president say time and time again, still here now, I'm not responsible for the deficits. The person responsible for all our federal debt is George Bush. Right. Except that, even with all those tax hikes, this president has managed to propose more debt in his first 15 months in office than all previous presidents combined, from George Washington to George Bush, from the first George W. to the last George W. Number 1 to number 43, this president is doubling our national debt in 5 years and tripling it in 10. And in fact, there have already been monthly deficits in this president's first year and a half in office, or almost year and a half in office, monthly deficits that were higher than annual deficits under President Bush during his 8 years in office. His first budget, President Obama's first budget, increased non-security discretionary spending by 10%, not counting, by the way, the $800 billion stimulus package. President Bush's last budget held non-security discretionary spending growth to 1%. These are unsustainable levels of spending and debt that are taking place right now, and if it's not reined in, the United States is at risk of becoming a very large Greece, and we have to act. These are just some of the reasons that the American people are so concerned today, and it's some of the reasons why Democrats are in such deep trouble. But while I'm optimistic about our chances in November, I do have some concerns. There's still a lot of time. 6 months is a pretty long time in an election year. Things could change. There could be an intervening event. Or Democrats could wake up and they could adapt somehow. I remember in 1994, I was working for Dick Armey. He was chairman of the House Republican Conference. We went to Roll Call, the newspaper of Capitol Hill, met with the editors there and the reporters. And they asked him, what do you think is going to happen in November in the election? And in April of 1994, he said, I think Republicans are going to take control for the first time in 40 years. And they all but laughed him out of the room. He was mocked for making that suggestion in April of 1994. Well, no one's mocked for making that suggestion now. No one's laughed out of the room. So people understand, Democrats understand, it is a possibility. My fear, one of my worries, is that over the course of the next 6 months, our intensity might wane. We might take some things for granted. Independence may become less energized. We can't let that happen. You can't let that happen. I know that we hear this a lot, and it feels that people say this all the time in every election, but this is the most important election of my lifetime.